So, how on earth do you get your focus off this world when you're constantly worrying and you have all kinds of things pulling at you? You can have that need to get groceries constantly, the money that the need to get groceries constantly causes, and the things with your kids, whether they're growing up or whether they're adult children, your relationship with your husband, and so many other things. So, how do you get your focus off this world? When you get your focus off this world, it is like walking down the road on stilts, falling because your eyes stray to the crowd around you. Have you ever been to a parade and there's somebody walking on stilts? Didn't you always want to do that as a child? But the best you could do is put strings on a can, so you're only a little bit off the floor, the ground. But when I've gone to a parade on the 4th of July, they are really up where they can have a whole different perspective on the world around them. You're no longer keeping your eyes on Jesus when you're on stilts because you're up there. Maybe you lose track of the focus point that you're supposed to have and you fall. Or you need to get over. You ever seen the clown on stilts and they need to get over to the wall to grab onto something? They get their eyes off of Jesus, and so to speak. So there are three important pillars or guideposts that might be on your path that will keep or help you to get your help you keep your focus off the world and on Jesus and off all the things that lure us. And if you've ever faltered like someone on stilts, these will help you be like the thing that the person on stilts wants to reach out for to keep him on track or to focus on. So, number one is to get your focus off the world. How do you do that? Well, let's look at what one of the Bible verses says. And from Luke 12:22 and 24, it says, "And he said to his disciples," this is Jesus talking, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat, nor about your body, what you will put on. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have neither storehouse nor barn, and yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And which of you, being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? If then you are not able to do a small thing as small a thing as that, why are you anxious about the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass, which is alive in the field today and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O you of little faith? And do not seek what you are to eat and what you are to drink, nor be worried. For all the nations of the world seek after these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, seek his kingdom, and these things will be added. So even though we see throughout the Bible how we shouldn't be anxious, we're constantly bombarded with ways to be anxious, worry, and just bombarded constantly. And I think especially as women, we um, need to provide good tasting food for our families. So we need to come up with a menu or list. And if we aren't able to do that, we're constantly struggling with finding something at 5 o'clock. Suddenly we need to come to think of it. I know I'm making chicken tonight, but I don't know what I'm doing with it. So you get it. And so we head to the fridge anxious, and sometimes we're just out of our anxiety. We head to the fridge to find something crunchy to eat. And I don't mean a piece of celery or a raw carrot stick. We're looking for something crunchy that's not healthy. And that satisfies temporarily that anxiety and worry somehow. But then we want more and constantly struggling with these things. With the current state of our country, the cost keeps going up, and so that food costs more, gas carts cost more. And this has been happening since the beginning of my marriage, but it was all relative to what we earned. And it's still, but it just seems like it's rapidly, things are going up faster and faster. So the cost is more. So that it's like the anxiety is there. Um, so this passage is so good because it reminds me not to worry, to trust God, that He will supply my needs, even my food needs and my basic money needs, and so much that is, I mean, you may have health needs or you may have needs with your children, but a lot of times these other needs are still there. And so, whatever your needs are that you're worrying about, what I'm trying to share with you today is to help you learn how to cope with all these spiritually. So, we can also go overboard with clothes, um, for Heavenly Father to provide and to just talk with Him about the things that we're worrying about, how much we fall short of doing that and talking to Him. So we shouldn't be worrying about whether we're going to get everything in this world or not. And that is so easy to do when you walk into Walmart, or if you go on to Amazon, they are flashing things in front of you. Buy this. This is a special today. Get this. And sooner you know it, you can be putting things into your cart that you don't need. Why shouldn't we be doing this? Because we should be learning to put our focus on heaven, and we shouldn't have our focus on what we are accomplishing or can acquire or get in this daily life. Instead, number 3 is to do not fear, but instead surrender all to God. And I think it's something I used to hear people doing much more than they're doing today. And it's something I heard more as a child. What can you give to God? Surrender means giving everything to God, everything, and giving Him the things you're worrying about. And just letting Him really work in those situations and the things that are in your mind, and just takes up our mind and our thoughts so much that sometimes it's hard. Have you ever had a hard time falling asleep because your mind is just going and going and going? You wake up thinking about those things, the things that are on your mind, and it's so easy to do today. And so you might be thinking, well, I'm not rich, I need these things. And so if you've ever been to California and seen a homeless man there, you'll know how we guard our possessions, even if there isn't much value to them. So when I went to college in California, so it has a dearness to my heart. But a few years ago, I was back a few times, and the homeless would push, some of them would push their belongings in carts, and it was pure junk. It didn't even look valuable, but they hoarded it nevertheless and wore too many clothes, probably trying to get all those things that they wanted. And I don't know the story behind some of these people, how they got there. Some of them did have many belongings, and at one point something happened in their life which got them to that point. It's not like they were always poor necessarily. So that whether something is wrong in their mind or not, they are an example of how we are in our houses and how we bring back bags and bags of things from Walmart or from Amazon. Things come like almost every day, and our closets are full. And I've especially been more aware of this since I came back after being away for 5 months and living in just a small 700 square feet or something like that square foot place that only had one bedroom and only one closet. It's kind of a big closet, but it's only one closet for everything that you needed in your house. The kitchen, the dining needs, the whatever needs, 4 or 5 months there. And so I come home and remember, oh, I have many more things than that. And I've just been in this throwing out mood, realizing I don't need as much as I thought I needed. So just like the homeless, just like living in a small place and returning to a bigger place, um, we can rely on God much more fully, and we can give away what we own physically, or even though we don't actually physically give it all away, we can give it to God so that if we lose it, we are not devastated because we were hanging onto it for dear life, literally. So preparing to go someplace. When you're going on a road trip, the first thing you might pack is your clothes. You probably will look at the weather app and decide what the weather is going to be like when you're away, so you know what kind of clothes to bring. And you might need snacks for the ride or some money, or depending whether you're flying. If you're flying, you can bring much less belongings with you. But you might even have a vacation checkoff list. And this is the way we need to live our life on earth, like we're going someplace. We're not here forever, and we live as if we're going to be here forever. We live and gather things like we're going to be able to keep those things forever in eternity, and we're not going to. And whether you're going to hell or heaven, either place, you're not going to take what you have on earth. And so it kind of puts what you have on earth and the things you're clinging on to or worrying about, whether it's your children or physical belongings. You can't even bring your children to heaven with you. There's no grandchildren in heaven. You might want to or wish you could. They have a free will, and that's a whole nother story for another time. So I have a workbook that I have available if you go to the blog post that will be linked below, and it's Knowing Jesus Better Journaling Workbook. And it's a newer workbook that I've done, and I like it the way it's done. It has some different aspects to it, but it's verses that it's based on that helps you do a writing challenge. I like to write out the verses that will help you get to know God better. There's a prayer warrior mom page, a journaling page that will take you through the verses if you want to dig deeper into them, through the SOAP method, which I explain in other places. Actually, if you will go to that blog post, you can click on that link to the Knowing Jesus Better journaling workbook, and it will have a video that explains it better. And it just has all kinds of things that you will be able to do a study and just get to know God better. So I invite you in our marriage. So